Hey everyone, Rich Forsman here. Today I'm joined by Jeff Kaiser from MarchOnHarrisburg, an organization that I've worked with recently that I really appreciate. Jeff, nice to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for inviting me to come speak with you today.
So MarchOnHarrisburg, let's talk about that a little bit. The first thing that really kind of caught my attention when we had met up originally was your stance on getting ranked choice voting implemented here in Pennsylvania.
Right. Yeah. So March on Harrisburg, we do a lot of stuff, ultimately trying to get our lawmakers to work for us instead of people with money and things like that, and the corporations. So ranked choice voting is one of the policies that we're currently working on to bring that to Pennsylvania. The bill that we are currently promoting in the legislature would make ranked choice voting an option in Pennsylvania that localities could choose to use instead of plurality voting, which is what we have today, but it's not forced down anyone's throats. But yeah, that's one of the policies that we are currently actively working on.
Well, and for me, I mean, when you see like on the national level, I mean, the race in New York now with Mamdani, I mean, the only reason he's even able to run is because of ranked choice voting. And while not everybody may agree with him on his stances, the beauty of ranked choice voting is it opens the door for third parties to actually emerge and be successful.
Yeah, it does open the door for third parties. It makes them not quite the black sheep that they would be otherwise. So third parties by the two major parties are viewed as spoilers.
Well, right. And I mean, here in Pennsylvania, I mean, another thing that would have to change, I imagine, would be the closed primaries that we currently have. The way it works now, in case you don't know, is if you're not a Democrat or a Republican, you can't vote for a Democrat or a Republican in the primaries, which locks out third parties essentially from being even a primary opponent. Where I came from in Michigan, there were open primaries and you could vote for Democrat, Republican, whoever you wanted, no matter what your party affiliation was. So you could register as an independent and still participate in the process. Here in Pennsylvania, obviously, if you're not a Democrat or Republican, you might as well not even bother. And it's unfortunate, I think, because there are a lot of people, and even myself included, that fall in between somewhere there that, you know, may not completely agree with one side or the other. But I feel like you don't really have a choice if the primaries are closed.
Yeah, well, third party candidates can get onto the ballot. They've got a different process, which is unfortunate that they do have that different process because it makes it harder for them to get onto the ballot.
Much harder. I mean, in the case of like the national seats that are up, I mean, the signature requirements alone to get on the ballot are way higher than they are for either party.
Right.
And that's, you know, I mean, it almost feels intentional in its implementation.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. You know, the two parties as they are, they want to have that dynamic of just the two parties. They don't like the idea of somebody else coming in because it threatens their power. So,
well, yeah, and I think there's an element of truth to that. I mean, for me, looking at the landscape, when I first moved out here in 2003, I had registered as an independent. And then in 2004, when the national elections happened, I realized I couldn't participate, and I ended up registering as a Democrat at that point. But for me, like growing up and living in Michigan, I'd always kind of like kept an open mind at least, and would look at all of the candidates in the field, and yeah, it feels like you're basically locking people out in order to secure, like you said, the power dynamic that's currently in place. Speaking of power dynamics, though, that's another fun week.
Before we move on, I one more thing on open primaries. There is actually a push going on right now in the legislature to make open primaries different than what you were describing. What you were describing was kind of more of a jungle primary where everybody's kind of in the shared pool. Sure. The thing that seems to be getting attention right now in Harrisburg is open primaries where someone who's non-affiliated or affiliated with a third party, I may have said that wrong, at least non-affiliated, they can decide to vote in the primaries of either the Republican or the Democratic primaries at the time that they vote. So it does allow them to have a voice in at least those two races. The third-party candidates still have the signature requirements themselves to get on. Right. But as far as a third-party voter, it gives you more of a voice. So that is happening. That does seem to be getting some attention in Harrisburg. We're not pushing that one ourselves, but that one seems to be gaining organic traction because the people want it and people are asking for it.
All right. So on the field of like ranked choice voting and when it comes to open primaries, what is MOH's involvement? How do you guys advocate for and push for the legislation that you're trying to get passed?
Right. So those particular policies, we call those our people in policies, trying to make voting work for everybody in Pennsylvania. And we advocate for those things very similar to the way we advocate for our money out policies, where we do a lot of public education. We try to teach people about ranked choice voting for people who don't know about it, educate them about the work that we're doing so that they can talk to their lawmakers, to their representatives, and say, hey, this is something I'm interested in. And they can tell their representative, I want you to support this if they do. We have bills that we have helped introduce in the legislature. Right now, the ranked choice voting bills, they've not been introduced yet, but they're coming soon. We've provided help getting the language for those bills, and they're going to introduce us two companion bills with the same language, one in the House and one in the Senate. So we're working with them. We actually spent this past Monday, a half dozen of us or so were in the Capitol running around the Senate, trying to find support for the ranked choice voting bill that's going to be introduced in the Senate for Senator Anthony Williams, who's going to be introducing that bill. So we do lobbying in the Capitol as well. On back to the education side, one of the things we do for ranked choice voting is we will go and do a ranked choice voting event at, say, a brewery or a restaurant or something like that. We'll say, hey, so at a brewery, create a flight of beers that you are interested in how people rate them. And we'll hold a ranked choice voting election on those beers on that flight, and we'll vote for the winner of that flight. But it teaches people about ranked choice voting. They get practice filling out the ballot, seeing how the tabulation of the vote works. The brewery gets some information about what was popular, at least with that group of people, those beers and whatnot. So we do lots of education. We had some people doing flyering in the Philadelphia area, making them aware of what we are doing around ranked choice voting and passing out flyers. So to put the word out about what we're doing. And we're also talking to the Philadelphia City Council. We're talking to them about possibly introducing a resolution to say, hey, we in Philadelphia want the option to choose ranked choice voting. Pennsylvania legislature, please make this happen. So we've got a lot of things that we're doing around these policies to try to make them happen.
And I think that's the difficult part, though, is a lot of the people in the process that you would need to buy into this currently don't have an interest in buying into it, right?
Yeah, well, so on that point, somebody saying, I don't know that a lawmaker saying, I don't know that I want to choose ranked choice voting or support this because this might hurt my ability to get reelected. One of the things that we do, we try to reassure them that ranked choice voting, most of the time, the majority of the time, would not change the outcome of an election. Whoever wins, for those of you who understand ranked choice voting, whoever wins the first round of a ranked choice voting election almost always wins the final tally at the end. So the first round ranked choice voting is exactly what plurality voting is today. So it almost never changes the outcome. Where it changes the outcome is when there is a really strong split vote between two candidates, where they've split the vote between the two, and someone who supports one would probably support the other as well. So those votes will get consolidated, and that person might win in that situation. But that doesn't happen all that often.
You're not wrong. I mean, it all depends on the makeup of the district, depending on how it's, laid out. I mean, the demographics are going to be pretty solid one side or the other. But there are ones like here in Central PA, especially where, a third party could not just split the vote, but actually win.
Right. And winning, that's difficult because of the money involved to run a campaign, which is a whole other topic.
I was going to say we can
talk about that. Yeah, definitely. So when you've got those swing districts where it's only a few percentage points difference between the Republican and the Democrat, a third party coming into that can really affect the winner of that. And And in a lot of ways, ranked choice voting would help protect the majority party, the dominant party in that district. So if you've got a +3 Republican district, and a Libertarian comes in, that might cause the Republican to lose to the Democrat. Ranked choice voting actually can save the Republican race in that district, and vice versa. So there's actually a recent example of that here in Pennsylvania. So the special election in Lebanon County earlier this year.
Talking about Senator Pelosi.
Yes, the race that Senator Malone won in that district. If you look at the tabulation of that election, if you look at the votes, there was a Libertarian on that ballot. And the Libertarian took just about as many votes as Malone won by.
Yeah.
So if the Libertarian had not been on the ballot and all of those people had voted Republican, there's a very good chance it would have at least been a recount. And if you add in the write-in votes, possibly the Republican could have won in that area.
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the Libertarian even being on the ballot, Sal. Yeah.
Yeah, but because there was a Libertarian on the ballot, it definitely allowed Malone to win handily. So that's an example of where that happened here. The exact situation you talked about, Ray. You're in Pennsylvania very recently. At the same time, we would argue that because there was a Libertarian on the ballot, that might have brought out more voters that would have participated otherwise.
Well, and I think that's another good point. Like turnout, especially in years like this, is always traditionally pretty low. And in the case of like that district, I know that the Malone's team, his campaign team, did a lot of work energizing people and getting them out to vote, which definitely helped his chances as well. But you're right. Like, I mean, if the Libertarian hadn't been on the ballot and there was only one other person to vote for, it could have swung it either way.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is, that 400 and some voters who voted for the Libertarian, maybe half of them wouldn't have shown up.
Right.
At all.
Right.
So ranked choice voting, having more candidates on the ballot, let me back up a second, not just ranked choice voting, but just having third-party candidates on the ballot can drive more turnout. It's more likely that you're going to find somebody who meets your policy goals, your values on the ballot when there's more choice.
Sure.
And you're more motivated to come out and vote for those people. And that ranked choice voting can then take that election and help come up with a consensus candidate that most people agree with to represent that area.
Right. Well, I think we've chewed up enough time on ranked choice voting. So that's your people inside of the equation. And now there's also the money outside of the equation, which I know one of the big ones you guys are currently pushing for is the gift ban, which for those of you who don't know, in Pennsylvania, there's no limit on the donation size you can give as gifts to a candidate. As long as it's all recorded and above board, there's no limit.
Yeah. So the money outside is probably the bigger side of our campaign. That's the side I think we focus more on and is more important to us. And we can go into the 5 different ways there are to give money to a politician, to a legislator or candidate for the legislature. But the one is gifts. As you said, there's no limit on what a lobbyist can give to a lawmaker, to a public official.
Yeah. As long as it's all recorded.
To a point. So there are reporting requirements for those gifts, but those reporting requirements are also quite lax. So there was a report done, I forget the exact year, but there was a report done by the House legislature that investigated this, and they discovered that in that year that they investigated, lobbyists self-reported $1.5 million worth of gifts given to public officials,
which doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things.
We'll get back to that. Yes, but only 40,000 of that was specifically reported as from this particular lobbyist to this public official. So only 3% you could actually see who gave what to whom.
Interesting.
The other 97% in that year was just reported as the aggregate of what was given by the lobbyists. And the reason for that is because you have to get above a threshold. before you have to report.
Oh, right. Yeah, there is a dollar amount threshold. You're right.
Right. And there's two different thresholds for two different kinds of gifts. But as long as you stay below those numbers, you don't have to report it. And what lobbying firms will do is they'll have multiple lobbyists, individual lobbyists, giving gifts so that each of them individually keeps the amount that they give it to this public official below that threshold and this one below that threshold. And then somebody else comes in and could give them more.
That's an interesting gap in reporting requirements, considering the amount of money you're talking about there. That's a lot of small individual donations. That's a lot of lobbyists involved if you manage to keep it below that number.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's hundreds and hundreds of lobbyists in Harrisburg. Yeah.
F you. Sitting with one right now.
Yes. I'm not paid. I'm not paid to do that. I don't work for a corporation. I work for MarchOnHarrisburg and indirectly for the people of Pennsylvania.
Sure, for sure. No, and that's, I guess I'm just trying to make the point that, lobbyists in general are not a bad thing. And there are causes, that you guys advocate for that, without having an organized structure behind it would be much harder to even get your foot in the door to push for legislation that matters.
Right.
And so the gift ban is one thing. What else are you guys pushing for?
Yeah, so the gift ban is one. Let me go back to the lobbying real quick on that. So I just wanted to relay this story. This is pretty funny. I was talking to a couple of lawmakers once about the gift ban and promoting it to them. And we ran out of time in that meeting to talk about it because they had to go to session. And one of them joking with me, he's like, well, you know what, maybe we can continue this conversation. Maybe you can buy us dinner and we'll go out. And yeah, and because that's actually a lot of the way the lobbyists, those are some of the gifts that they
sure, yeah,
is they take our lawmakers out to dinner and pitch them on their ideas. So yeah, so that was kind of a funny moment. It was, but as far as the other things, so there are 5 ways that we've identified that lobbyists, corporations, et cetera, give money to our politicians. Gifts is one. Yeah, that's certainly one. The second one is campaign contributions.
Sure. And just, if I'm not mistaken, there's also no limit on campaign contributions as well.
Yes, in Pennsylvania, there's limits for federal offices because those are controlled by federal laws. But for state offices, et cetera, there's no limit on how much an individual can give to a candidate or to a lawmaker. So it definitely sets up the situation where somebody can come in, like an Elon Musk, and come in and completely fund one person's campaign because they have the money to do that.
Sure.
And yeah, and there you go. And
we actually had someone like that here in Pennsylvania as well. I don't know if we want to name names or anything.
Well, Jeff Yaz, yeah. He is Pennsylvania's Elon Musk. Yeah, he definitely spends lots and lots of money on campaigns through his PACs on Pennsylvania elections. I think last year he reported $34 million in donations to Pennsylvania, which got doled out to PACs, then to other PACs, then to individual candidates or whatever.
Right.
And I mean, let's be honest, candidates need money to run these campaigns. Campaigns are expensive, which is kind of a problem unto itself because it creates a barrier to people who might be good candidates but just don't have the money or don't have the connections.
That was one of the things that made me hesitate when it came to time to run for office.
Right.
I mean, without having a stable income, how can you effectively run for office? Right. And donations is the key to it. And that's something I hate making the calls. I hate asking people for money. And if I could avoid that, I would.
Right. Yeah. So it is expensive. You need a lot of money. If you can get that money from 1 or 2 or 5 people, what they call whales, that makes your life a lot easier. You don't have to spend as much time fundraising as you can campaigning or whatever. The problem is you've got now this incentive to do what your donors want, because if you don't and they decide next time around to not fund your campaign, you might lose your job.
Or even fund your opponent.
Or fund your opponent potentially. Yeah. And I'm not saying that necessarily happens all the time, but, there is that pressure. There is that, do I work for the people who voted for me? Do I work for the people who funded my campaign to get me in here? Right.
And the two are never the same. I mean, with the way things are currently structured, I think. And And that's actually another part of your equation, right? With getting the money out is publicly funded elections.
Yes. So this is something that we don't have yet, but we're working on it. We're hoping in the relatively near future, we want to introduce a bill which would create a public campaign finance model similar to Seattle's. So Seattle has a public financing model called democracy vouchers. Now, we've learned that vouchers is a bad word in some parts of Pennsylvania politics, so we don't call it democracy vouchers. We're going to call it democracy dollars.
Right.
But here's the gist of it, is that a certain amount of money is collected for public campaigns. The people who are registered to vote will each individually get vouchers that represent that money. In Seattle, they give everybody 4 vouchers worth $25 each. Okay. And the way as a candidate you get that public money is you go to the voters and you pitch your campaign and you try to encourage them to vote for you. You tell them what you're about. And if they agree with you, they will give you 1 or 2 or all of their vouchers. And so that's the way of taking these 2 different populations. You've got the voters and you've got the donors, right? And now they are the same people. The people who are giving you the money are the people who are also going to vote for you.
That's actually a pretty neat, model, I guess, to use. My assumption was it was just everybody got a set amount of money at the beginning of their campaign, and once you ran out, you were out.
No, the thing would include spending limits. It's like we talked about earlier. It's very expensive to run for office. We're hoping that by giving free public money, we can have them not spend as much and bring that down. One of the things they discovered in Seattle, I think it was in Seattle, was that, there's a certain amount of money it takes to get your message out. Yeah. So if you can at least get that amount of money plus maybe a little bit more to get your message out so that all the voters know what you're about, that's really all you need to spend.
Sure. Yeah.
They've determined that any money that you spend above that does not move the needle that much.
Right.
So there's no need for these elections to be as expensive as they are, and for us to be inundated with all these flyers and get all these texts and get all these phone calls. For voters, that's very frustrating.
Yeah, well, it is. And I mean, after a certain point, like you said, you stop paying attention, So, I mean, it doesn't matter after the 100th text comes in. I'm already voting the way I'm voting.
Right. Yeah, we're still working through the details, but the general point is that the donors are the voters.
Exactly. And I think that's important. For my money, I don't want to have to chase after whales. I mean, the work that I do is in the community, and I prefer to spend my time in the community. And those are the people who, even if they don't have money, would probably support me if they could. And, if we were handing out, everybody just got a block of democracy dollars. I love the word, actually. That's pretty funny. I think that would be a much better way to choose your candidates. And unfortunately, and I know a lot of elected representatives, I don't think they want to do this, the way that it's currently designed. But it is effective. Like you said, if you have 1 or 2 people that you can call and get all the money you need to fund your campaign, it makes it a lot easier to conduct your campaign because now you can spend time on the stuff that actually matters, public appearances and all of the actual work of the campaign versus the, what do they call it? Call time.
Right.
Call time.
Right. Or when you're actually in office.
Yeah.
When you're in office, do you want to spend your time working for the people, or do you want to spend your time making phone calls?
No, sure. I mean, that's another great point. I mean, once, when you're in session, and running a campaign at the same time, your days are pretty full. I got to see a little bit of it last year when I was working on some of the national campaigns, and it blew my mind just the requirements that are put on these candidates to run. So I really do enjoy your organization's goals. I know that it's an uphill battle no matter how we attack this, and I'm glad there are people out there doing the work. That, for me, when I met with you and with Belinda, right? It was so refreshing to know there's an organization that's out there that's trying to push for actual democracy and not trying to think of the word that doesn't sound too negative. Kleptocracy? No, that's not.
Oligarchy.
Yes. Yeah. So it's nice to know that we're working towards a democracy and not an oligarchy. one of the most frustrating things for me, like watching from the outside for as many years as I did before I got involved, was knowing that, money and politics should not be intertwined. And despite that, seeing the Supreme Court hand out decisions like Citizens United, which opened the doors for what we currently have at the national level and the divisiveness that we're currently dealing with, I felt hopeless. I felt like there was no way to fix the problem at a source, and here in Pennsylvania, it was like mind-boggling to me to find out that even though we have caps at the federal level here in Pennsylvania, it's like, hey, give as much as you want. Like, because at that point, even if you're not beholden to the person who gave you all that money, at some point, there's a term for it. The illusion of impropriety is almost as bad as impropriety itself.
Right. Yeah. And that's the big thing, again, going back to the gift ban is, maybe those gifts made a difference or maybe it didn't, but there's always that question,
Right.
Let me just touch on what you were just saying here about, us working in Pennsylvania. So we're definitely a growing organization, especially this year. A lot of people are motivated to try to fix things in politics. So we've been getting a lot of engagement that way. One of the things that we heard from a lobbyist actually in the Capitol was that, at the end of the day, public opinion trumps money in politics. You can have all the money you want spending on your issues as a corporation or whatever, but if public opinion is against you, you cannot overcome that. We saw that in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race earlier this year, where Musk came in and spent all these millions of dollars to try to swing that election. And the people spoke out and said, no, we don't want that person. And public opinion ended up overcoming that money. So with enough people interested in improving our democracy, enough people interested in participating in the political process, we can make things better here in Pennsylvania.
Hopefully. Well, Jeff, I think that's about it for time, but it was great having the chance to sit down with you. I hope, March on Harrisburg is successful in all its endeavors. But at the end of the day, my name's Rich Forsman, and I'd say vote for me on November 4th, but turns out today is November 4th, so I hope you voted for me.